most dangerous prison in the world is not made of bars. It's built in your mind. Some of you are free on the outside, but locked up on the inside. You're chained by excuses, chained by fear, chained by the shame of what you didn't do yesterday. And here's the truth. Success and shame live in the same house, but only one gets to pay the rent. The question is, are you living like the landlord of your destiny, or are you just renting space in somebody else's dream? You know what I realized a long time ago? The difference between those who succeed and those who stay ashamed has nothing to do with how smart you are, how much money you were born with, or who believes in you. The real difference comes down to this. Successful people take responsibility. Ashamed people make excuses. That's it. That's the dividing line. And I'm telling you right now, excuses are comfortable, but they're also deadly. They'll keep you locked in the same spot year after year, looking at the same walls, fighting the same battles, wondering why nothing changes. I'll never forget when I was on the streets, sleeping in abandoned buildings, digging through garbage cans to eat. I had every reason in the world to point my finger. I could have said, it's my father's fault. He left me. I could have said, it's the system, it's the city, it's everybody else. And for a long time, I did. But here's the problem. Blaming people never filled my stomach. Blaming people never gave me a roof. Blaming people never put $1 in my pocket. I had to face the truth. If I was ever going to get up, it was on me. That's what I need you to understand tonight. Responsibility is freedom. You think responsibility is a burden, but the moment you say it's mine, that's the moment you take your power back. Because if it's somebody else's fault, then you got to wait for them to change. But if it's yours, then the change can start right now. The Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That's the whole game right there. Life is going to happen to you whether you like it or not. Pain is coming. Setbacks are coming. Disappointments are coming. But the reaction, that's yours. That's responsibility. When my wife got diagnosed with MS, the easy thing to do would have been to sit in a corner and cry about how unfair it was, to throw my hands up and say, why me? Why us? But that wasn't going to save her. That wasn't going to make her better. Responsibility said, all right, it's on you now. What are you going to do about it? And that's when my grind went to another level. I wasn't just speaking to motivate anymore. I was speaking to provide. I was speaking to build wealth so she could leave her job, so she could rest, so she could have the best medical care in the world. That's why I tell you, when you stop making excuses, your whole life shifts. You start seeing opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. You start creating wealth instead of watching bills pile up. Ashamed people sit back and say, it's too hard, it's too expensive, I don't know how. Successful people ask, how can I make it happen? That's responsibility. Let me give you something practical. If your finances are a mess right now, you can blame inflation, you can blame the economy, you can blame your boss for not paying you enough, or you can say, all right, I need to learn how money works. I need to create another stream of income. I need to stop spending money I don't have. Same situation, two different responses. One keeps you ashamed. The other builds you into someone successful. And don't miss this. Responsibility doesn't mean you won't fail. You're going to fail. I failed more times than I can count. But here's the difference. When successful people fail, they don't point fingers. They don't drown in excuses. They own it. They say that one's on me, and they adjust. Ashamed people fail and spend the rest of their lives telling a story about why it wasn't their fault. That's why their story never changes. I need you to wake up tomorrow and look yourself in the mirror. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't lie to yourself. Say, I am where I am because of me. And if I'm going to move, it's going to be because of me. That's not punishment. That's power. That's freedom. So I'll leave you with this: excuses build walls, but responsibility builds doors. And the only way you're walking into the life you deserve is if you stop hiding behind those walls and take full ownership of your future. Just your life. Take responsibility for it. Let me tell you something that most people don't understand. Successful people know how to put themselves first so they can give their best to others. Ashamed people, they think love means sacrificing themselves to the point where there's nothing left. They call it being selfless, but what it really is empty. And hear me closely, you can't pour into anybody else's life when your own cup is dry. You can't lead your family if you can't lead yourself. You can't give your kids a future if you don't take responsibility for your own. Shame people think they're being noble when they neglect their health, their goals, their purpose, just to make everyone else happy. But all they're really doing is robbing the people they love of the best version of themselves. That's why successful people get it. They know the greatest gift they can give to their family, their friends, their community is to be at their highest level. I had to learn that the hard way. When my wife was diagnosed with MS, I thought at first the best thing I could do was to be by her side, hold her hand, comfort her. And don't get me wrong, she needed that. But when those medical bills started coming in, when the stress started tearing her down, I realized love wasn't just about being present. It was about producing the best way I could love her was by being the strongest, healthiest, wealthiest version of me so she never had to worry again. That's when my grind went to another level. I started saying no to distractions. I stopped entertaining foolishness. I became obsessed with my health, my work, my finances, not because I was selfish, but because I refused to let the woman who sacrificed everything for me spend her life in stress. That's not love. Love says I'm going to elevate so high that everyone connected to me rises too. You've got to stop lying to yourself. Stop thinking that neglecting your own dreams, your own growth, your own health is somehow helping the people you love. It's not a shame people get stuck in that mindset. They think they're doing the right thing by always putting others first. But what they're really doing is giving their family the scraps of a broken, tired version of themselves. The great philosopher Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I'll take it one step further. Mastering yourself is the beginning of all success. You can't lead anybody else if you're lost. You can't help anybody else if you're hurting. You can't guide anybody else if you're blind. So you've got to do the work. You've got to take care of your body, your mind, your purpose, not just for you, but for them. Think about it like this. When you get on a plane, they always tell you, put your own oxygen mask on first before you help anyone else. Why? Because if you can't breathe, you can't save your child, your spouse, your neighbor. You'll both go down. Life works the same way. You can't bless people if you can't breathe yourself. That's why successful people wake up early to pray, to exercise, to study, to plan. That's why they're disciplined with their money, their time, their energy, because they know the better they are, the more they can give. Ashamed people, on the other hand, wake up tired, distracted, broke, because they keep pouring out without ever filling back up. I want you to ask yourself, are you really helping the people you love by giving them a weaker version of you? Or would they be better off if you became the strongest, wealthiest, healthiest version of you possible? I'll give you something you can write down. The best way to bless others is to master yourself. That's the truth. Don't let guilt fool you. Don't let shame trick you. If you want to give your family the world, you've got to start by becoming the kind of person who can create one. So don't confuse sacrifice with sabotage. Don't confuse giving with losing. Stop draining yourself and calling it love. Real love is rising higher so you can lift everyone else with you. That's why I grind. That's why I level up. Because the greatest gift I can give to people who depend on me is the best version of me. You've got to catch this. Successful people know their why. They wake up every day with a purpose. Ashamed people, they drift. They move through life like a leaf floating on the water. Wherever the current takes them, that's where they go. But successful people are different. They've got an anchor. They've got a reason so strong that no storm can blow them off course. Listen to me. Purpose is power. When you know why you're doing something, you don't quit when it gets hard. You don't fold when it gets heavy. Ashamed people stop the moment pressure comes because they were never clear about why they started. They just felt like it. And feelings will fail you every single time. Purpose doesn't. Purpose holds you when pain knocks on your door. I remember being homeless, no food, no bed, no home, nights where I slept in abandoned buildings and my stomach was growling so loud it kept me awake. You'd think I had the strength to keep grinding just because I felt like it. No, my WHY was screaming louder than my hunger. I said to myself, I refuse to die like this. I refuse to let my mama down. I refuse to let my future family live like this. That WHY became my fuel when everything else was empty. That's the difference right there. A shame. People don't have a WY, so they waste years of their lives drifting, waiting for motivation to come from the outside. They want a pep talk. They want somebody to push them. But successful people, their WY is internal. It burns from the inside out. You can't blow it out. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." That's deep. You can go through storms, setbacks, heartbreaks, betrayals, losses, and still keep moving forward if your WY is stronger than your pain. Let me break it down. You ever wonder why some people quit the gym 2 weeks after joining, but others go every single morning for years? The difference isn't discipline alone, it's purpose. The quitter just wanted to look good for summer. The one who stays, their why is, I want to be alive to see my grandkids grow up. That why is unshakable. When I started speaking, I wasn't thinking about fame. I wasn't thinking about YouTube views. My WHY was to rescue kids who grew up like me, without guidance, without hope, without somebody telling them they had greatness in them. That WHY got me up at 3 a.m. to write, to prepare, to study when the world was sleeping. That WHY had me flying across the country for free, speaking to 5 kids in a classroom like it was 5,000 in an arena. My WHY gave me the strength to sacrifice. But let me tell you the tragedy. Ashamed people avoid asking themselves the hard question. Why am I really here? They distract themselves with entertainment, with excuses, with busyness, because deep down they're afraid that if they look too closely, they'll realize they've been wasting their potential. Don't let that be you. Don't drift another day. Sit yourself down and wrestle with it. Ask, why am I doing this? Why am I waking up every morning? What legacy do I want to leave? Who am I doing this for? Until you find an answer that makes you cry, makes you move, makes you fight harder than you've ever fought before, you haven't found your WAY yet. And I'll give you this line, write it down. A life without purpose is a slow death. That's what drifting is. Slow death, you're breathing, but you're not alive. You're moving, but you're not progressing. You're existing, not living. But the moment you find your WHY, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your priorities change. Your vision gets clearer. Suddenly, you're not just working a job. You're building a legacy. You're not just saving money. You're creating freedom. You're not just grinding. You're fulfilling destiny. So I'm asking you right now, what's your WAY? Because until you answer that, you'll always be at the mercy of distractions, excuses, and shame. But the second you lock in on it, nothing, no person, no pain, no setback can stop you. That's the power of purpose. That's the fuel of the successful. And that's the difference between drifting in shame and rising in success. You've got to catch this one because it separates the good from the great. Successful people master their time while ashamed people waste it. I need you to hear me. Time is the most expensive currency you will ever own. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose opportunities and sometimes get another shot. But time, once it's gone forever. And that's why successful people treat their minutes like gold, while ashamed people throw theirs away like trash. Let me break this down. You ever notice how people who don't value their time always want yours? They want you to binge watch shows with them. They want you to scroll for hours, gossip, hang out doing nothing. And here's the crazy part. They're broke, they're struggling, they're behind on their dreams, but they've got time to waste. That's the mindset of the ashamed. They don't respect the one thing they can't get back. Successful people, different mindset. They're not letting the day control them. They control the day. They plan. They prioritize. They execute. They understand what the ancient philosopher Seneca meant when he said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That's heavy. It means life feels short because too many people spend it on the wrong things. When I was younger, I wasted years skipping school, running the streets, doing everything except investing in my future. And let me tell you, when I finally realized how much time I lost, it crushed me. But instead of letting that shame destroy me, I flipped it. I said, never again. That's when I started waking up early. That's when I started grinding while everybody else was sleeping. People laughed, said I was crazy. But guess what? Those extra hours stacked up, and those stacks of hours turned into stacks of opportunities. And those opportunities turned into the life I'm living right now. Ashamed people say, I don't have time. No, you do. You just don't want to use it right. You had time to scroll 2 hours on your phone. You had time to sit in front of a screen every night. You had time to talk about other people's lives while ignoring your own. The truth is, you don't lack time. You lack discipline. Successful people guard their time like a lion guards his territory. They're ruthless about it. They say no when they need to. They don't apologize for prioritizing their dreams. They know every wasted minute is a step backward and every invested minute is a step forward. That's why you see them rising while everybody else stays stuck. Think about this. A farmer who wastes planting season has no harvest to collect later. It doesn't matter how much he prays, how much he hopes. If he didn't sow, he won't reap. That's how time works. You either use it to plant seeds of growth or you waste it and harvest regret. I remember flying across the country for speaking gigs, red-eye flights, long layovers, no sleep. People would ask, why don't you just rest? Because I understood those hours mattered. Every time I spoke, I was planting seeds. Seeds in the minds of students, seeds in the hearts of men and women who needed hope. And guess what? Years later, those seeds grew into a movement. But it started with me refusing to waste time. Here's the truth. Ashamed people kill their own dreams with procrastination. They tell themselves, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow turns into next week, next month, next year, until the dream is buried in a graveyard of wasted time. Successful people live by a different creed. If not now, when? If not me, who? They don't wait for the perfect time because they know the perfect time doesn't exist. The perfect time is the one you decide to move. And let me drop this quote on you. Write it down. Time is the silent judge of your priorities. If I look at how you spend your day, I don't need to hear your dreams. I already know if you're serious because your actions reveal your priorities louder than your words ever will. So I just sit asking you right now, how are you spending your time? Are you wasting it in shame or are you investing it in success? Because every tick of the clock is an opportunity you still never get back. Don't sit there. Let your future self look back and say, I had the time, but I threw it away. The difference is clear. Ashamed people waste time. Successful people respect it, guard it, and use it like a weapon to cut through every obstacle. That's why success chases them. That's why opportunities find them. Because when you honor time, time honors you. Let me tell you something powerful. Successful people embrace the struggle while ashamed people run from it. That's the difference. You see, everybody wants the reward, but not everybody wants the process. Everybody wants the trophy, but not everybody wants the sweat. Everybody wants freedom, but not everybody wants to go through the fire it takes to earn it. Ashamed people are allergic to pain. The moment it gets hard, they quit. The moment it costs too much, they stop. They'll tell you, this isn't for me, not because it's impossible, but because it's uncomfortable. But successful people, they look at struggle and say, come on, let's go. Because I know what's on the other side of this pain is growth. I had to learn that the hard way. When I was homeless, sleeping in abandoned buildings, hungry, cold, struggle was all I had. I could have let it break me. I could have let shame bury me alive. But instead, I embraced it. I told myself, if this is what I've got to go through to build something better, then so be it. That's when I realized pain is not the enemy. Pain is the passport. The struggle is the bridge that takes you from where you are to where you want to be. So that's why the great thinker Epictetus said, difficulties show men what they are. You don't know who you really are until life puts you through something. Success is not proven in comfort. It's proven in chaos. That's where your character shows up. Let me make it plain. You ever seen a diamond? You know what it takes to make one? Pressure, heat, time. Without that pressure, it stays a piece of coal. That's exactly what life does to you. It applies pressure, it applies heat, and most people run because it's painful. But successful people stay in the fire long enough to transform. That's why they shine. I remember grinding in college, working 3 jobs, going to class, hustling on the side. My body was tired. My mind was tired. But I kept telling myself, this struggle is temporary, but what it produces is forever. And now every time I step on a stage, every time I inspire somebody who's ready to quit, I realize it was worth it. That pain birthed purpose. To shame people, let their struggle define them as victims. Successful people, let their struggle refine them as victors. That disputes the difference. The ashamed say, why me? The successful say, try me. Here's the reality. You can't pray struggle away. You can't hide from it. You can't avoid it. Life is going to test you whether you like it or not. The question is, what will you do with the test? Will you fold or will you fight? Because the same fire that burns wood into ashes is the fire that purifies gold. Too many people want shortcuts. They want success without sacrifice. But shortcuts rob you of strength. Shortcuts rob you of wisdom. Shortcuts rob you of the very muscle you need to carry success when it finally arrives. That's why you see people win for a moment, then lose it all because they didn't build the strength in the struggle to sustain it. I'll never forget what my grandmother used to say, son, the storm will either water your garden or flood your house. It depends on how you prepare. I didn't get it at first, but she was right. Struggle can destroy you or grow you. It all depends on whether you stand in it or run from it. Let me give you a simple picture. Think about a seed planted in the dirt. It's buried, it's dark, it's pressed down. But without that struggle, without pushing through the soil, it never becomes a tree. The very pressure that seems like it's burying it is the same pressure that launches it upward. That's your life. Your struggle isn't burying you, it's planting you. So hear me well, ashamed people avoid pain and stay average. Successful people embrace pain and create greatness. You've got to decide which one you'll be. Because in the end, the struggle you're running from is the very struggle that's designed to set you free. Successful people protect their circle while ashamed people poison theirs. That's the truth. Who you keep around you will either push you to greatness or pull you into mediocrity. You can't fly with eagles if you keep scratching with chickens. See, ashamed people love comfort so much that they surround themselves with people who will never challenge them. They want yes men. They want people who will justify their excuses, who will tell them it's okay to quit. It's okay to lower the standard. It's okay to play small. But successful people, no. They understand that environment is everything. They seek out mentors, accountability partners, warriors who will look them in the face and say, you're better than this. Get up. Keep moving. I remember when I was on the come up, I had friends who wanted to party every night, sleep in every morning, complain about life all day. If I stayed in that circle, I would have stayed stuck. But I had to make a decision. Do I want to fit in or do I want to break out? So I started surrounding myself with people who were hungry, people who were grinding, people who didn't just talk about dreams, they lived them. That's when my life started to change. The ancient writer Aesop once said, a man is known by the company he keeps. He wasn't lying. If you're walking with 5 lazy people, you'll be the 6th. If you're walking with 5 broke people, you'll be the 6th. But if you surround yourself with 5 hungry, disciplined, focused people, you better believe you're going to rise to their level. That's why successful people protect their circle like treasure. They don't let just anybody have access to their mind, their energy, their spirit. They know that influence is contagious, and ashamed people, they don't realize how dangerous their circle is until it's too late. Let me put it plain. If the people around you aren't making you better, they're making you worse. There's no neutral. You're either being lifted or you're being dragged. And some of you are struggling, not because you don't have the talent, not because you don't have the drive, but because you're surrounded by people who keep clipping your wings. I had to learn this the hard way. There were people I loved, but they weren't helping me grow. Every time I talked about my vision, they laughed. Every time I shared my goals, they doubted. And one day I realized I can't keep watering dead plants. I can't keep investing in people who don't believe in themselves, let alone me. So I made the hard choice to love them from a distance and connect myself to people who were running in the same direction I was. Successful people get this. Iron sharpens iron. You can't get sharper hanging around dull blades. That's why the great teacher Confucius said, if you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room. Stop being afraid to outgrow people. Stop being ashamed to walk away, because every step you take away from the wrong crowd is a step closer to your destiny. Let me give you an example. You'll understand. Think about a fire. If you want that fire to stay hot, you've got to keep feeding it wood. But if you surround it with water, it's gone. That's your circle. The right people fuel your flame. The wrong people drown it. Some of you are asking, why am I not where I want to be? And the answer is simple. It's not because you don't have the talent. It's because you're loyal to the wrong people. Loyalty to the wrong circle will cost you your destiny. I need you to protect your circle like your life depends on it, because it does. Choose people who believe in discipline, who believe in sacrifice, who believe in pushing past limits. And if you can't find them, then become that person yourself, because your energy will attract your tribe. Here's the bottom line. Ashamed people settle for toxic circles that keep them small. Successful people build powerful circles that pull them higher. You've got to decide who you're going to let sit at your table. Because at the end of the day, the voices you allow around you will either echo your excuses or amplify your greatness. Successful people sacrifice for the future, while ashamed people sacrifice the future for the moment. That's the line right there. One group knows how to delay gratification. The other gets trapped chasing short-term pleasure. See, ashamed people live in the now only, but not in a way that builds. They trade away tomorrow just to feel good today. But successful people, they've mastered the art of giving up what feels good now for what will feel great later. Listen, it's not easy to wake up at 4 a.m. and grind when your body wants to sleep. It's not easy to save money when your hands are itching to spend. It's not easy to study when your friends are out having fun. But that's what separates the successful. They understand that every sacrifice today is an investment in tomorrow. Ashamed people just don't see it. They want comfort right now, so they sell their dreams cheap. I know because I lived it. When I was younger, I wasted years chasing comfort. I skipped class, waste time, take the easy road, and guess what? It left me empty. Nothing to show for it. But when I finally got serious, when I started sacrificing sleep, sacrificing excuses, sacrificing comfort, I started seeing results. I stopped saying one day and started living day one. There's an old saying, he who sacrifices freedom for security deserves neither. Let me flip it for you. He who sacrifices his future for comfort will never taste success. That's the truth. Ashamed people hide behind, I deserve to enjoy myself. But listen to me, the highest enjoyment doesn't come from wasting time. It comes from building something that lasts. Think about the farmer. He plants seeds today, works the soil, sacrifices his comfort long before the harvest comes. But ashamed people want the harvest without the planting. They want the blessing without the work. Life doesn't work like that. You reap what you sow, and if you keep sowing laziness, distractions, and excuses, don't expect a future of abundance. One of the greatest minds, Aristotle, said, the roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet. That's sacrifice. The grind doesn't always feel good, but the reward, it's unmatched. And successful people get that. They don't chase sugar highs. They build legacies. Let me make it plain. Ashamed people say, I can't miss the party. Successful people say, the party can wait. My purpose can't. Ashamed people say, I can't skip this purchase. I've been wanting it. Successful people say, I'd rather invest now and live free later. That's the mindset shift. I remember being in those classrooms grinding and hearing people laugh at me saying, why are you trying so hard? Why are you doing all that? And the same people who laughed at me back then are the same ones asking me for opportunities now. Because when you sacrifice, you put yourself in a position to win. Ashamed people confuse sacrifice with loss. They think giving up sleep, giving up comfort, giving up distractions means they're losing. No, you're not losing. You're investing. You're trading something small for something greater. You're planting seeds for a future you haven't even seen yet. Here's a quote for you. Comfort is the enemy of greatness and sacrifice is its servant. That's why successful people climb while ashamed people sleep. That's why successful people build while ashamed people waste. At the end of the day, life is going to ask you for a payment. Either you pay with sacrifice now and live with freedom later, or you avoid sacrifice now and pay with regret later. But trust me, regret is always more expensive. So you got to ask yourself, am I sacrificing for a future I'll be proud of, or am I selling my future for a moment I'll regret? Because the truth is simple. Ashamed people waste today and destroy tomorrow. But successful people sacrifice today and build forever. Successful people build discipline, while ashamed people wait for motivation. That's the difference maker. See, ashamed people wake up and say, I don't feel like it. They let their emotions run the show. If they're tired, they don't move. If they're uninspired, they don't act. But successful people, they don't wait to feel like it. They've built the muscle of discipline. They understand that feelings are visitors, but discipline, that's a resident. Listen to me. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and reality. Without it, you'll stay stuck, wishing, wanting, hoping. Ashamed people pray for the feeling, but successful people grind without the feeling. That's why ashamed people give up when it gets hard, but successful people keep going because they've trained their will, not just their wants. When I was young, I didn't feel like waking up early. I didn't feel like studying. I didn't feel like grinding, but feelings don't feed you. Discipline does. Feelings don't pay bills. Discipline does. I had to stop waiting on inspiration and start demanding accountability from myself. That's why I say motivation can start you, but discipline is what finishes you. Look at the soldier. He doesn't wait to feel brave before he follows orders. He doesn't wait for inspiration before he trains. He moves because discipline demands it, and that's why he's ready for battle. Ashamed people are never ready because they've never trained themselves to act without feelings lining up. The philosopher Epictetus once said, no man is free who is not master of himself. That's discipline. Mastering your body when it's tired. Mastering your mind when it wants to quit. Mastering your habits when they want to drift. Freedom doesn't come from doing what you want. It comes from doing what you must. Here's a practical example. Somebody trying to lose weight, ashamed people say, I'll go to the gym when I feel motivated. They wait until Monday, until the new year, until the stars align. Successful people, they get up and go, tired or not, rain or shine. That's why ashamed people are always restarting and successful people are always elevating. So I had a season where I relied on motivation. I'd get fired up by a speech, a book, a moment, but the fire would fade and I'd find myself back at zero. It wasn't until I learned how to move without the feeling and my life started changing. I stopped saying, I don't feel like it. I started saying, it needs to be done. Ashamed people are slaves to mood swings. Successful people are slaves to mission. And let me tell you, mission always outlasts mood. That's why you see successful people operating at a high level consistently. They've wired their life around habits, not hype. Here's a line for you. Discipline is remembering what you want long after the mood to want it has left. That's the separator. Ashamed people quit because the mood left them. Successful people keep building because the mission never left them. You've got to decide, are you going to live like a thermostat or a thermometer? Thermometers change based on the environment. If it's hot, they rise. If it's cold, they drop. That's ashamed people controlled by what's around them. But thermostats, they set the temperature. That's discipline. Successful people decide what the environment will be, not the other way around. So here's the truth. Ashamed people wait for motivation to knock, but successful people live by discipline that never sleeps. One keeps you hoping, the other keeps you winning. Because in the end, feelings fade, but discipline builds forever. Successful people invest in relationships that grow them, while ashamed people surround themselves with comfort. That fits the truth. Most don't sister want to hear ashamed people keep company with folks who make them feel good about staying the same. They don't sister want to be challenged. They don't want to be corrected. They don't want to be exposed to their weaknesses. But successful people, they seek out circles that demand their best, circles that sharpen their mind, circles that stretch their vision. You've heard it before, iron sharpens iron. But here's the part ashamed people miss. Iron only sharpens iron when it collides. There's friction, there are sparks, There's pressure, and ashamed people run from that. They don't want to feel the heat of accountability, so they settle for company that keeps them average. But successful people, they run toward the fire because they know comfort zones never produce champions. Think about it. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Successful people position themselves where they're not the biggest fish because they want to swim with sharks that force them to level up. Ashamed people stay in the kiddie pool because in shallow waters, nobody can drown. But shallow waters never lead to the ocean. Let me take you back. There was a time I kept the wrong company. People who wanted to talk about problems all day, but never chase solutions. People who would complain about money, but never put in work. And you know what happened? I became just like them. But the moment I changed my circle, the moment I got around people who believed in growth, who didn't settle, who pushed me, it was like fuel to my fire. That's why the great Aristotle said, man is by nature a social animal. Who you spend time with determines who you become. You don't rise above your circle, you become it. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Here's the psychology. Ashamed people crave validation. Successful people crave elevation. Ashamed people ask, do you accept me as I am? Successful people ask, will you help me become who I'm meant to be? One surrounds themselves with cheerleaders. The other surrounds themselves with coaches. And you don't win championships with just cheerleaders. You need the coach that pushes you, corrects you, and expects more from you. Look at history. Great generals, great kings, great leaders. They all had counsel. They all had people around them who challenged their thinking, sharpened their plans, held them accountable. Even the strongest didn't fight alone. That's the difference. Ashamed people isolate and comfort. Successful people collaborate for greatness. Let me give you a practical example. You want to be financially free? You can't keep hanging around people who blow their paycheck on Friday night and complain about being broke on Monday. You've got to find people who invest, who save, who strategize, because if you sit at a table long enough, you'll eat what they're serving. Ashamed people sit at tables that serve excuses. Successful people sit at tables that serve execution. Here's a line you need to hold on to. Your circle is either your cage or your catalyst. Ashamed people get trapped by circles that keep them small. Successful people are launched by circles that demand they grow. So don't just look at your life, look at your circle. Who's around you? Are they pulling you back or pushing you forward? Are they watering your vision or draining it? Because at the end of the day, successful people choose growth over comfort, while ashamed people choose comfort over growth. And that choice decides everything. Successful people live with vision while ashamed people live with regret. That's the bottom line. Ashamed people keep replaying the past, what they lost, what they didn't do, what they should have done. But successful people, they keep their eyes on what can be. They don't deny their mistakes. They learn from them, but they refuse to be chained by them. See, ashamed people wake up every morning carrying yesterday on their back and wonder why they can't run today's race. They live in the land of if only I had started earlier, if only I had more help, if only I had the right breaks. But successful people wake up saying, what now? What's next? How do I turn this moment into momentum? Vision changes everything. The great King Solomon once said, where there is no vision, the people perish. And it's true, without vision, life collapses under its own weight. But when you have vision, even the darkest tunnel looks like a path to light. Let me tell you something from my own life. There was a season where all I had was vision. I didn't have money. I didn't have resources. I didn't have connections, but I had a picture in my mind of where I wanted to go. And that picture gave me fuel. It made me grind when my stomach was empty. It made me push when my body was tired. It made me believe when nobody else believed in me. Ashamed people don't paint pictures of the future. They hang portraits of the past. They decorate their minds with memories of failure instead of visions of victory. That's why they stay ashamed. But successful people understand that vision is a weapon. When you can see it before it happens, you can endure anything while it's happening. Think about the farmer. He plants seed because he has a vision of harvest. If he looked only at the dirt, he'd quit. But vision tells him this dirt is not the end. It's the beginning. That's what separates the successful. They see the tree inside the seed, the champion inside the struggle, the breakthrough inside the breakdown. Psychologically, vision gives your mind a destination and your body will follow. Ashamed people drift because they have nowhere to go. Successful people endure storms because they know what's waiting on the other side. That's why one quits and the other persists. So here it fixed my line for you. Regret looks backward, vision looks forward, and only one of them will take you to greatness. If you want to win, you've got to stop feeding your shame and start feeding your vision. Stop rehearsing your excuses and start rehearsing your future. Because regret will keep you stuck in yesterday, but vision will push you into tomorrow. And that's the ultimate difference between the successful and the ashamed. One chooses to see what can be, the other chooses to stay where they've been. Listen to me. Success is not about talent. It's not about luck. It's not about being born with the right last name. It's about choices. Every single day, you've got two options. Live like the successful or hide like the ashamed. Successful people embrace pain, take ownership, stay disciplined, invest their time, face fear, take risks, chase consistency, build powerful circles, and live with vision. Ashamed people avoid, deny, settle, and regret. So the question isn't, can you? It's, will you? Will you stop running from the work? Will you stop hiding behind excuses? Will you stop letting shame dictate your future? Because greatness doesn't ask for permission. Greatness demands commitment. You've got one life, one shot, and when the clock runs out, it won't matter who doubted you, who hurt you, or who left you. What will matter is whether you stepped into the arena and fought for the life you were called to live. So here's the call to action. Get up, stop waiting, stop wishing, start moving, start grinding, start living with vision. Don't be ashamed, be successful, because your time is now.